I guess we're going to have to do a part 2. This might be part 2 if I can't figure out how to match the videos together. Because I just accidentally hit space bar. Anyway, I was telling you about the Gospel of John. It's a 3-hour movie. Springs in the Valley, April 11th. Instead of the thorn shall come up the fir tree, and instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle tree. And it shall be to the Lord for a name, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. Isaiah 55:13. At the Jerusalem conference on Good Friday, we were out on Mount of Olives, and our hearts were deeply, strangely moved as we thought about his going out of the city yonder up to the hillside to die. I said to myself, I'd like to follow in his train and catch the same passion, the same vision as the meeting was closer than I thought. I'll take something by which to remember this hour. I leaned over to pluck a flower, one of the flowers that bloom in lovely profusion across the hillsides of Palestine. As I was about to pick my wild flower, an inner voice said, No, not the wild flower. Here is the thorn bush yonder. Take a piece of that. It was the thorn bush from which the crown of thorns was taken and crushed upon the brow of Jesus. I protested, the thorn bush is not beautiful, it's ugly. I would rather have the flower. And I again leaned over to pick my flower. The voice was more imperious this time and said, No, not the flower, but the thorn bush. There's something in the thorn bush you do not see now. Take it. Rather reluctantly, I turned away from the wildflower and plucked a piece of the thorn bush, put it in the folds of my Bible. No deeper, I put it within the folds of my heart and wore it there. Weeks went by, months. One day I chanced to look at my thorn bush I had worn within my heart, and to my amazement I found it was all abloom. The rose of Sharon was there in lovely profusion. There was something else in the thorn bush I had not seen. From thy briar, dear heart, shall blow a rose for others. To some people there comes this cross, and absence of the cross, there is always the shadow of the cross. Suppose God took it away, what then? And shall there be no cross for me in all this life of mine? Shall mine be all a flowery path, and all the thorns be thine? The Daily Bible. Looks like we're only 3 minutes in, and we're already to the Daily Bible reading. But this is part 2, remember? Though it didn't seem like it was very long, the part 1, where I accidentally stopped. Well, we were with David, and he was mourning his sick son. He had bred Bathsheba, killed her husband, taken her as a wife, and their son will die. And he was sick, so he's mourning and he won't eat. He lay on the floor, won't get up. 2 Samuel 12:18. On the 7th day the child died. David's servants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they thought while the child was living, we spoke to David, but he would not listen to us. And how can we tell him the child's dead? He may do something desperate. And David noticed that his servants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. Is the child dead? He asked.
If he is asleep.
If he's asleep. David noticed that the servants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. Is the child dead? He asked. Yes, they replied, he is dead. Then David got up from the ground. After he had washed, put on lotions, and changed his clothes, he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and at his request they served him food, and he ate. His servants asked him, Why are you acting this way? while the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but now that the child is dead, you get up and eat? While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept. I thought, who knows, the Lord may be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he's dead, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? Will I go to him, but he will not return to me? I will go to him, but he will not return to me. Meanwhile, Job fought against Rabbah of the Ammonites and captured the royal citadel. Job then sent messengers to David, saying, I fought against Rabbah and taken its water supply. Now muster the rest of your troops and besiege the city and capture it. Otherwise I will take the city, and it will be named after me. So David mustered the entire army and went to Rabbah and attacked and captured it. He took the crown from the head of their king. Its weight was a talent of gold, and it was set with precious stones, and it was placed on David's head. He took a great quantity of plunder from the city and brought out the people who were there, consigning them to labor with saws and with iron picks and axes, and he made them work at brick-making. He did this to all the Ammonite towns, and then David and his entire army returned to Jerusalem. David also defeated the Moabites. He made them lie down on the ground and measured them off with the length of cord. Every 2 lengths of them were put to death. Whatever. The 3rd length was allowed to live. So the Moabites became subject to David and brought tribute. Moreover, David fought Hadadezer, son of Rahab, king of Zobah. When he went to restore his control along the Euphrates River, David captured 1,000 of his chariots, 7,000 charioteers, and 20,000 foot soldiers. He hamstrung all but 100 of the chariot horses. And David took the gold shields that belonged to the officers of Hadadezer and brought them to Israel from Tebah and Berothai, towns that belonged to Hadadezer. King David took a great quantity of bronze. When the Arameans and Damascus came to help Hadadezer, king of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 of them. He put garrisons in the Aramean kingdom of Damascus. And the Arameans became subject to him and brought tribute. The Lord gave David victory wherever he went. Abishai, son of Zeruiah, struck down 18,000 Edomites in the valley of Salt. He put garrisons in Edom, and all the Edomites became subject to David. The Lord gave David victory everywhere he went. When T-O-U, toy in Hebrew, a variant of T-O-U, king of Hamath, heard that David had defeated the entire army of Hadadezer. He sent his son Joram to King David to greet him and congratulate him on his victory in battle over Hadadezer, who had been at war with Tou. Joram brought with him articles of silver and gold and bronze. King David dedicated the articles to the Lord, as he had done with silver and gold from all the nations he had subdued: Edom and Moab, the Ammonites, and the Philistines, and Amalek. He also dedicated the plunder taken from Hadadezer, son of Rahab, king of Zobah. These were chiefs of David's mighty men. They, together with all Israel, gave his kingship strong support to extend it over the whole land, as the Lord had promised. This is the list of David's mighty men. Jeshabim, Hakamonite, was chief of the officers. He raised his spear against 300 men, whom he redeemed in one encounter. Next to him was Elazar, son of Dodai, and the Ahahite. As one of 3 mighty men, he was with David when they taunted the Philistines gathered at Pasdammim for battle. Then the men of Israel retreated, but he stood his ground and struck down the Philistines till his hand grew tired and froze to the sword. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. The troops returned to Elazar, but only to strip the dead. Next to him was Shama, son of Agi, and the Hararite. When the Philistines banded together at a place where there was a field full of full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them. But Shama took his stand in the middle of the field, and he defended it and struck the Philistines down. And the Lord brought about a great victory. During harvest time, 3 of the 30 chief men came down to David at the cave of Adullam, while a band of Philistines was encamped in the valley of Rephaim. At the time, David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." So the three mighty men broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord. "Far be it from me, O Lord, to do this," he said. Is it not the blood of men who went at the risk of their lives?" And David would not drink it. Such were the exploits of the 3 mighty men. Abishai, the brother of Joab, was chief of the 3. He raised his spear against 300 men, whom he killed, and so he became as famous as the 3. He was doubly honored above the 3 and became their commander, even though he was not included among them. Beniah, son of Jehoiada, was a valiant fighter from Kabzeel, who performed great exploits. He struck down 2 of Moab's best men. He also went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion, and he struck down an Egyptian who was 7.5 feet tall. Although the Egyptian had a spear like a weaver's rod in his hand, Beniah went against him with a club. He snatched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. Such were the exploits of Beniah, son of Jehoiada. He too was famous as 3 mighty men. He was held in greater honor than any of the 30. But he was not included among the 3, and David put him in charge of his bodyguard. Other mighty men. Ashel, brother of Joab. Elhanan, son of Dodo, from Bethlehem. Shemoth, the Hararite. Helez, the Pelonite. Ira, son of Ikish, from Tekoa. Abiezer, from Anathoth. Sibbecai, the Hushathite. Eli, the Ahohite. Maharai, the Netophathite. Heled, son of Baana, the Netophathite. Athai, son of Ribai, from Gibeah in Benjamin. Benaiah, the Pirathonite. Hurai, from ravines of Gash. Abiel, the Arbathite. Asmaveth, the Baharamite. Eliabah, the Shalbanite. The sons of Hashem, the Gizonite. Jonathan, son of Shagi, the Hararite. Ahiam, son of Sakhar, the Hararite. Eliphal, son of Hefer, the Machirthite. Ahiah, the Pelonite. Hezro, the Carmelite. Narai, son of Ezbai. Joel, the brother of Nathan. Mibhar, son of Hagri. Zelek, the Ammonite. Naharai, the Berathite. The armor-bearer of Joab, son of Zeruiah. Ira, the Ithrite. Gareb, the Ithrite. Uriah, the Hittite. Zabad, son of a lie. Adinah, son of Shiza, the Reubenite, who was chief of the Reubenites, and the 30 with him. Hanan, son of Maachah, Josaphat, the Mithnite, Josaphat the Mithnite, Uzziah the Ashtarothite, Shama and Jeiel, the sons of Hotham the Ararite, Jediel, son of Shimri, his brother Joah and the Tizite, Eliel the Moabite, Jerubai and Joshaviah, the sons of Elnam, Ithma the Moabite, Eliel, Obed, and Jaziel the Mesobite. Tomorrow someone rebels. Well, you know what? Since that doesn't even seem like it took very long, I'm just going to go back and read you the first two devotionals that were in that part one. It was only 3 minutes, so I think I'll just sing to the Lord again here with the... Sing to the Lord. And then I read God's Little Devotion. Falling down doesn't make you a failure, but staying down does. For a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again. Proverbs 24:16. Most people know that Thomas Edison conducted countless experiments with countless kinds of materials in search for an effective filament to use in carbon incandescent lamps. Each fiber failed. He'd toss it out the window. Ultimately, the pile of failures reached to the 2nd story of his house. One day in 1879, some 13 months after his first failure, he succeeded in finding a filament that would stand the stress of electric current. Why not try carbonized cotton fiber? He worked for 5 hours to make a fiber, but it broke in 2 before he removed the mold. He used 2 spools of cotton thread before a perfect strand emerged, only to be ruined. When he tried to place it in a glass tube, he continued without sleep for 2 days and nights before he managed to slip one of the carbonized threads into a vacuum-sealed bulb. Turning on the current, he saw the glow of electric light that we now take for granted. The failure doesn't need to mark the end. It can be one step closer to the success you desire. And I was happy to read At the Name of Jesus because I love to have a new name for Jesus every day. And here on April the 11th, Jesus is glory. The splendor of God radiates from him, and Jesus says, as you look away from the heartbreak of the crushing burdens of the world to see my glory, you will enter into a happy new perspective, and then you can see the world through the light of my transforming nature. In this way, turn evil to good and become part of my solution. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. Glory is the only one begotten from the Father, full of grace and truth. John 1:14. And so, what can I do? That's it, I guess. No part 1. I'll just make this the one part, so since I read those books again.